now by Vicky White of Outsource PA Services, and one of Vicky's areas of expertise is about social media. And I need to start, Vicky, by asking, so where's the social media angle in that then?
Okay. Well, the first song you heard, Can't Buy Me Love, is truly saying, a lot of companies out there are trying to sell kind of Twitter followers, Facebook fans, and all they're giving you is numbers. They're not giving you any kind of
real love.
Followers, or people that are actually interested in what you do. They are literally just numbers, so they're kind of pointless contacts to have, really.
Okay.
And the song we just heard there, You Never Give Me Your Money, it's truly saying, we've got to feel like there's a lot of engagement involved with our kind of followers or our contacts. So it's kind of making sure that we focus on some kind of interaction with our contacts and making sure, we're sharing interesting and relevant posts.
Wow. And I wonder if a certain Mr. McCartney is aware of that at all.
Yes.
Or Sir Paul, as I usually call him.
If he's listening, he could ring in and tell us whether he had it in mind when he wrote it.
Absolutely. I'm a gambling man. I've got £1 says he doesn't phone. What do you reckon?
Go on, I'll give you £1.
Let's instead talk to someone who is here, who is Vicky White from Outsource PA Services. I'm guessing Outsource PA Services, you do what it says on the tin.
Exactly. Yeah. So what we do is we work with senior sort of professionals. We also work with small businesses, helping them with PA and marketing support. So outsourcing is meaning that the work we provide is very flexible.
Okay.
And it kind of works in well where you don't have sort of the typical overheads of employing a full-time employee. So you kind of use us as you need us.
In the same way as you would outsource, maybe you're an accountant or a solicitor
exactly,
or whatever it may be. And I hear a lot about virtual PAs. What's the difference between a virtual PA or an outsourced PA, or is it
There's no
just
difference. They're just different terms.
Words?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're based local?
Yeah, I'm based in High Wycombe.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. And I know that one aspect of your work is social media. It's one of the areas that
it's one of the areas, yeah. So.
Yeah, and which is why we thought, hey, let's have you along today because we want to talk about social media. So can I start with a really broad question for listeners at home who may be thinking, well, what is this all about? So how would you describe social media to somebody who's not au fait with all of the positives? What is social media? What's the point of it?
Well, social media is all about engagement. It's all about increasing your brand awareness. So it's gaining exposure to whether it's a service or a brand or a product. And it's letting people know that you're here. And that is using social media accounts like Twitter, like Facebook, LinkedIn, and some of the other kind of newer social media sites, which we'll come back to.
Well, I was going to say, that's a point. Either now or at some point, can we talk about a sort of checklist of what is social media?
Yep.
I mean, I've got a good idea of the main ones, but...
There are probably a couple of others that you probably haven't heard of yet.
Right.
Okay, when you say... Well, okay, so we've got Facebook and Twitter are the ones that almost everyone has heard of. Certainly people in the business world will be aware of LinkedIn as well.
Yeah.
So when you say a couple of other ones that we won't have heard of, and you finish a sentence with the word yet, does that mean as in they're about to explode on the scene?
They're already there, but they're just not as visible as the kind of the main ones like Facebook and Twitter. But they are fast becoming quite popular and used by a lot of businesses now.
Any in particular you care to point
Yeah,
us out?
one of them is Google Plus.
Okay.
Google, everyone's heard of. They're actually they brought out a new social network which are actually trying to compete with Facebook.
Yeah.
But there's like Facebook and Twitter. It's for business. There is a business page you can create, and as you know, it will rank very highly in Google. So it's one you must seriously think about having.
Oh right.
I should really take care of that.
So I've got a third one now because LinkedIn, because I ignored Google Plus. I thought, they're just trying to go for Facebook, and why do I need another one? You're saying because it's going to be good on Google.
It's going to rank highly, so it's kind of more for your SEO purposes, making sure you have a profile picture because, as you know, images rank very highly in Google as well, and adding video and things like that are very important. So you should look at completing a good Google Plus.
Right. Well, that's an afternoon for me when I get back.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what Mike has just said is, I think, probably speaking for a lot of people, where the implication of more work to do. I've done Facebook, I've done Twitter, so now I've got to do another one. If just suppose you don't have time to do all that stuff and you're just going to plump for one, does the one you plump for vary depending on what type of business it is, or what?
Exactly, yeah. So if, for instance, you're a shop and you're selling products geared towards kind of the younger market, you might concentrate more on Facebook. Whereas if you're kind of maybe a financial organisation, you might want to think about more kind of LinkedIn and Twitter. I think they're geared to more professional. When
you say you might think more about it, does that mean that exclusively, or would you say you should always have some sort of presence on the others?
You should have a presence, not just kind of to engage with your potential customers or to increase your brand, but also, as I mentioned before, for SEO purposes, because these social media sites rank well on search engines. So you should also make sure that you're kind of using keywords when you post. You're linking back to your website, which is quite important.
That's what I wondered if you meant that, but because I think we had a long time ago. I think it was our first show. We had Jim on, didn't we, talking about SEO
optimization,
and I took it all to be related to how your website performs. Is that still true? I.e., with social media, it has to link back to your website to have an effect on your SEO for your website.
It doesn't have to, but it certainly helps. Right. As much as you might post out a message, if it doesn't link back to your website, it's not going to have probably the same effect as something that kind of gears somebody to click on it. So maybe an unfinished message, or read here 4 tips on, and then linking that back to your website. So on your website, you should have maybe a blog. Yeah. You should have maybe a tips, tips on kind of what you do, and use that as the pages where you link to.
Yeah.
Okay. I know a lot of people seem to view Facebook as something that kids do to sort out their Saturday night. What are they going to do? So if you said more for retail and for younger, so I don't know, I'm guessing something like Claire's Accessories, for example, and there are other retailers, but they're someone who I would call retail, and they're aiming in the younger market, so they would presumably have a Facebook page. But what does it say? I mean, I suppose we could pull it up on a computer and have a look. But what kind of messages should you be trying to get out there to people? Is it all sell, sell, sell?
No, you should never go out there to sell. Obviously, that's kind of part of what you do, but I mean, it's all about kind of showing your expertise in the area that you work in. It's all about building trust and kind of people remembering you. So if you've got clients, make sure that you do get in contact with them through social media sites like Facebook, because they obviously receive your posts and your messages. So it reminds them that you are still there, you are still an expert in what you do, and it kind of helps that in terms of engagement.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to come back in a moment to remind me, because I might forget, trust and Facebook and that sort of thing. Okay? Trust, listening.
Trust.
Remind me.
I'll remember trust.
However, before we do...
She's clever, she's written it down.
Exactly. She'll remind me. I haven't got a pen, you see. I've got my pen. I need a PA. I want to ask you about your first choice of music, Vicky. It's not Desert Island Disc, but it's a bit like that. So why did you choose Let's Stay Together by Al Green? Any special story behind this?
Well, as you all know, it's Valentine's Day today. I don't know if you're all going out, wining and dining your wives.
I'm staying in. I'm opening all my cards.
Oh, yeah.
So you got a few couple in the post, did you, this morning, Mark?
Oh, God, the postman struggled to my door.
I think mine was on strike, actually, this morning. I didn't get anything in the post. I'll have to bring Royal Mail when I leave. Yeah. But yes, I chose this song just because it's it's a nice song to kind of celebrate Valentine's Day, and hope you all have a nice evening.
Oh, he's fading out on me. I always get caught out by those fades. Right, Vicky, I had a question for you. It struck me when you were talking about building trust using social media.
Yes.
One thing I know about face-to-face communication is one key way to build trust. The first way is to eye contact, and the second way is to listen. If you start to talk a lot and don't listen to someone, you decrease the amount of trust they have in you.
Yes.
How do you do that? Build trust in that kind of way using social media?
Well, I think it's
Does it
quite.
have any lessons for
Yeah, I think it's quite important when you are posting out and you are engaging with your contacts, that if you do send out a message and somebody does respond, it's quite important that you go and you respond back to them. As we mentioned before, we talked about engagement. I mean, it's very important part of social media, so it's making sure you're building that trust in terms of responding and interacting with people that comment or retweet or like one of your posts, that you either thank them or kind of.
And if they make a point, you can carry on the conversation, and they then know, even though it's remote, that you obviously have heard them in inverted commas because you've responded on that point. So always respond and get a conversation going.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
And so if people are sort of posting back to you on your Facebook page or on your Twitter feed, then you need to respond to that. What if it's bad stuff?
Yes, that's quite a touchy area to look at when you receive kind of negative feedback. I think it's quite important that you do respond to negative feedback, but you start by saying apologies. I mean, it's kind of how you would respond to a letter of complaint.
Yeah.
You need to show your followers that you have dealt with it and you are taking it seriously. As you say, because these complaints are going to all of your contacts.
Wasn't there something in the press about this recently? Wasn't there a case, somebody quite well known? I know what it was. I do a lot of work with chefs, and it was one of the chefs who I won't mention because I think it was Sat Baines. You're grinning.
No, you have mentioned it. So
yes, indeed. Well, no, because it's public. It's out there.
Yeah,
he had this public altercation.
Yeah.
Sat's well known for having, I don't know, sort of certain kind of fiery personality, I think. And he entered into some real strong dialogue with a customer who had been in, talked to him about the meal, and then gone and said something untoward on I think it was TripAdvisor, whatever it was, some media.
Yeah.
And he entered into a tough talk with him publicly. You would say, mistake. Shouldn't have done that.
Yes, shouldn't have done that. I think you have to be quite careful. You need to remember that, you are posting out things to members of the public and potential clients. So definitely be careful what you write in terms of negativity.
Yeah.
Go offline.
Yeah.
So can we carry this on offline?
Yeah. A tip that I heard recently was to say you'd really like to resolve this. Please call my direct line on this number. Blah blah.
That would be the best thing.
Yeah. And then everyone who reads it says, "Oh, didn't they deal with that well?" And they obviously care and all that kind of stuff. But what you're doing is you're getting it offline. You're getting it out of the public domain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They have. There was quite a bit about it in the sort of, what do you call it, cuisine literature magazines and media about this very subject and different ways you could respond and so on. But it's something that they particularly are, well, I suppose hotels are as well, but chefs get very, very attached to a dish and are very disappointed when you criticise it. A bit like, I suppose, a hotelier when you say it's not very nice.
Well, but also I think the way of dealing with it is similar to a hotelier. If you imagine you're a hotel receptionist and somebody comes out screaming and shouting about how horrible their room is, and you can see around you everyone is listening. Well, that's the analogy of what's going on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. Everyone is listening. So what do you do in that hotel? You say, would you like to come into this private meeting room where we can sit down and we can chat about it? And that's what you do, I think.
Yeah, because you need to remember as well, everybody else there is probably on social media, so that they could quite easily mention the situation and say something negative about it.
Yeah. So how do I get people to follow me? When the bit that I don't get is when they're following me, they see all the interesting things that I'm writing. But how do they, or tweeting or Facebooking or whatever other verb there now is in the language, but how do they start following me? How do they find me? How do I find them?
Okay, so you might be a new business, or you might be a professional, kind of not got your social media set up yet, or kind of you've not got your contacts there. So the best thing to start is with your family and friends. Majority of them will use social media, so word of mouth, get them to kind of go online,
get them to
and
like
follow
your
you.
page,
yeah, exactly.
retweet your stuff. Okay, but isn't that, sorry, going back to the Beatles, isn't that just buying love?
It's no, you're not buying anything.
Well, you're not paying them, but it's
you're
they're your friends and family. They're there to support you, so they'll quite happily go on and kind of support you in terms of building your contact list. And a lot of social networking sites as well allow you to export your contacts through your email accounts.
Okay.
I know in particular Gmail does this, and Outlook. So you can use that as an option, and then what the social media account does is notify them that you have this Twitter page and request them to like it, or the same with Facebook.
Okay.
So that's another way of kind of building your network. Also look at other kind of companies, look at your kind of professional contacts, follow them on Twitter or like their business page. Once they've seen that you've done that, they'll probably quite happily like you and follow you back. So that's another area to look at. And you also, with things like on Twitter, when you're tweeting out, use keywords. They're quite important when sending out posts. And I don't know if you've heard anything about hashtags.
Mm-hmm. Anything to do with illegal drugs? Probably not. No.
So hashtags are what you use. The hashtag.
So Twitter, isn't it? It's related to. Yes.
It's related to Twitter, yes. So when you use keywords, you should always put a hashtag before it. And that kind of helps you to build your followers, so people can find you using those hashtags.
I'm going to play some more music of yours in a moment, and I might come back, as is my wont, to this idea of hashtag tweeting and retweeting, because again, somebody said something about a good way of generating exposure is retweeting. Mm-hmm. Let me come back to that, because I do want to make sure before the news that we play your next selection, which is Don't Stop Me Now not the Queen.
By Queen. It's her version.
That would be interesting.
Don't stop me now.
So,
I just did that on air, good heavens. Okay.
Did you forget you were on the radio, Mark?
He did. I didn't. I left the mic open. Right. Why Don't Stop Me Now?
Well, this is a song that always puts me in a good mood when I'm driving, when I'm at home. It just seems to always put a smile on my face. So that's simply the reason.
What a fine reason.
We love it.
I wish they would go, and I'm going to stop singing any minute now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I was actually talking to you about this idea, and I can't express it very well, Vicky.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me that a good way of using Twitter is you tweet something and you put something in it which was going to make it retweeted, and the whole thing starts to go off like a chain reaction. Is that? Can you explain that better than I can? Yeah,
kind of to put it simply, when you kind of, for example, use Twitter, you write a post, and there are keywords which I mentioned before which are relevant to your business. For instance, coming on the show today, I wrote a tweet, and I wrote hashtag social media. Now what that does is it enables other followers or other people on Twitter to see that that's my area of expertise, and then they can go on and find me via these kind of hashtags.
With the hashtag social media, then, does it mean that there are people out there who will pick it up because it's got social media and they're following all stuff to do, and they'll track it back to somebody on Marlow FM?
People find that if they've got an interest in social media or that's their professional area, they can type in social media and find people that are talking about social media.
Yeah. So the idea of a hashtag is not of a general hashtag like social media in the example you just gave is not just that they associate you with it, but somebody who's never heard of you is looking for stuff about social media, and therefore they find you by searching on that hashtag.
Exactly, and they're relevant to me because that's their interest and that's what they want to know about. So there'll be an ideal contact for me.
So when you see the hashtag HIGNFY, have I got news for you, on the telly, that's so that
I knew that was familiar.
Yeah, anybody can tweet with that hashtag, and then they can search by that hashtag and see all of the tweets about it, and they can pick one or two they want to comment on or reply to or whatever.
Or they'll find people that might have the same interests because they're hashtagging the same keyword.
Yeah.
That does raise the question, what should I tweet? What do I tweet about?
You want to be careful, I mean, because you might have a lot of interests. You might have a personal Twitter account, you might have a professional Twitter account, so it's very important you do keep them separate. And I know we spoke before about having a couple of different interests, i.e. you might be a runner, as we talked about, and have an interest in cookery. So you want to be careful that you do keep your interests separate, because you don't want to send off the wrong messages to the wrong people. It will get confusing to your followers.
So if I'm in the business of running, I have a running shop. We've had our guest on who's talked about that. What I don't want to be putting tweets out about or on Facebook, articles and bits on Facebook is about the latest recipe for Black Forest Gatto or something.
Yes,
it's going to confuse
exactly.
people. What is this guy about?
Yeah, I mean, your personal profile is fine, but for your professional Twitter account or your professional Facebook page, do keep it relevant to your industry or your interest, and do keep it interesting as well. Making sure you are engaging your followers, and the information you're sending out is going to be useful to them.
And I suppose one way you know what's engaging and what's relevant is if people are retweeting what you're saying, then or liking what you're posting on Facebook, then that's a clear indication that what floats their boat.
Yes, because as well as keywords, you can also actually mention other Twitter users in your posts. For example, today, Mark, I know you're on Twitter as well, so I actually mentioned you using the @ sign, so it was at
my Twitter feed. And of course, as somebody with that Twitter feed, I then got an email that said that had happened, to draw my attention to it, and then I was able to retweet it.
So that then went to Mark's followers.
Absolutely.
The news is catching up on us. I'll confess I don't use tweeting. During the news, you can tell me why I should.